now is the moment that I would like to hand over to our guest director, Len Cesay, to introduce Amplified.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're here. We're out. We're out! Yeah. See, I can't do this over there, but I can do it here. I know one of you is thinking, well, who is he? My name is Len Cesay. I'm the guest director. It's my festival this year. Yeah! And, the reason I'm speaking like that and being a bit daft and what have you, I apologise for that, is because I am exactly where I want to be. I'm amongst diverse voices. Actually, I'm not sure I like that term, but I'm amongst writers, and that's a good thing. This is where I'm at home, you see. This is how I started. It's my first gig, my first writing. And I know that you're where you want to be as well, because you've not been out for a year. But I know you're where you want to be because you've made all the effort to be here to hear their voices. And yesterday I was here and I was watching some professional writers. And you know what? They were more nervous than you are. Just so you know. The professionalism of these young people backstage has been evident. Okay, proper introduction, and then I'll move on so we can get on to what's really important. Little Green Pig is a writing and mentoring charity working with extraordinary young people across Sussex, focusing on those who are underrepresented. And in fact, if you'd have been here with the professional writers last night, it was about underrepresentation, and they've published 3, 4, 5 books, and all of us will find ourselves, if we're in our story and being creative, that many of us, the majority of us, will feel underrepresented. Feel like I've got a unique story that I want to tell. That's all of us. We're all a part of that equation. We all feel like outsiders in certain environments, and insiders in others, and outsiders in environments that we thought we were inside. And the young people you're about to meet spent an intensive weekend together working with 3 professional writers, Pete Lawson, Sahela El Bushra, and Adam Kammerling. And starting with a blank page, one of the most scary places for most of us, actually, in life, they explored the things they most care about, the experiences that make them unique, the journeys and the moments of change that have brought them to where they are today. By the end of the weekend, they had written the gems that they're going to share with you tonight, this afternoon. Please give a warm, hearty Brighton Festival welcome to Amplified.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Good. We've got some whoops. We've got some people answering me very directly. Good. Thank you. That's also very lovely. I appreciate that. Can we please make a round of applause which expresses how excited we are to be back in a live theatre? Now, please make some noise if this is your first time out at a live event in 15 months. Woo! Can I please congratulate you that not only have you chosen to step out of your house into a live space, you're going to hear these wonderful stories at this wonderful event from these wonderful young people, but not only are you going to hear their stories, but these stories are brand new, exclusive, hot off the press. You guys are like the VIP section of their careers, basically. You're first in the door, front row. Make some more noise for yourselves for making such excellent decisions. Okay, so my name's Adam Kammerling. I'm going to be hosting the rest of the event. I met these young people 2 weeks ago in the aforementioned weekend, and I'm very privileged. This is my first time in a live space in 15 months, and what a wonderful way to be reintroduced to the live space, hosting such a lovely event. We need to work on our applause levels because we are half an audience. We're socially distanced. Now we need to fill the 2 meter gaps with noise. Now, it's amplified, so we're going to use a kind of speaker theme. Okay, so we're going to go like bass, mid, treble. So for the bass, we're going to use our feet. Can we all just stamp our feet a little bit, please? That's a good bass tone. Good bass tone. Okay, cool. Brilliant. We all remember what that means, don't we? Yeah, wicked. Bass. So now, the treble is our hands. So just clapping with the hands, please. Can I give you guys a note on the clapping? It's a bit Wimbledon. It's a bit like, yes, lovely, lovely Wimbledon goal, lovely tennis goal. Let's imagine our hands have been really bad. No, because then obviously let's imagine we've seen something. It can still be Wimbledon, but rather than a tennis goal, Pete Sampras just did a backflip. Wow, I'm showing my age, aren't I? So let's take it back to the 90s, and Pete Sampras has done a backflip. Bring us the mid. Let's go. That's better. That's better. Bit of power in the mid. Fantastic. And now the treble. The treble is the voices, the whoops, the hollers, the screams, the moos, the however you feel to express yourself. All are welcome in a creative space. Please, can we test the treble? Let's go. What do you think, guys? Do we want more treble, or was that good? More treble. Let's try the treble one more time. 1, 2, 3. Better. All right, cool. So now the way we use all of these sound waves together to become a full amplified applause machine is the bass, the mid, the treble. So please bring in the bass. Keep the bass going, bring in the mid, and the treble! All right, are we warmed up, applause machines? Fantastic. It's tiring, this, isn't it? Whew. I am going to do something, I'm going to do a piece, I'm going to open. In poetry, we have a thing called the Sacrificial Poet, because what tends to happen is the audience are warming up. So I'm going to sacrifice myself on your still warming applause. Make sure you're absolutely warmed up and ready for these amazing young people and their amazing stories. So I'm going to do a poem about rules. It's about rules. Does anyone here ever get the tube? Up there in London. So the tube, not anymore. Not anymore. Yes! Yeah, I unfortunately still have to get the tube. So the tube is a place where there are many, many rules. There are the rules that are on the signs. Stand on the right. Mind the gap. Now keep 2 meter distance. There are also the unwritten rules. You only take up 1 seat. Doesn't matter how empty the carriage is. Someone's sprawling on the tube. It's not an Uber, mate. What are you doing? You keep your bags in your allotted space. You're very careful with space on the tube. You also never make eye contact with anybody on the tube. And you absolutely do not start a conversation with a stranger. No. So the tube, many rules. Now, does everyone here have a baby in their lives? Any baby encounterers in the room? You can probably tell from my trousers that I encountered a baby this morning. This is the breakfast menu. Mango, avocado. I'm growing a bougie one. And babies don't do rules, okay? We even if we don't encounter babies, we understand they don't do rules. So this is what happens when babies that don't do rules meets the tube, where there are so many written and unwritten rules. I'm stepping into King's Cross. It's 3:00 p.m. I try avoid the crush. Oyster card bleep, gate swing, and I'm in, and the hum of people overground quietens to a hush. There's other laws down here. Personal space, that real estate, that's important down here. Watch where you're walking down here. Watch your feet and bags and loudness of your talking down here. I obey these rules. Eye contact's minimum. What would be the point in a city of 7 million? At Euston, a pram is carried on by a lady. You know what that means? Pram means baby. And a baby means an abject lack of understanding or respect for the rules I previously mentioned in this text. The infant in this instant is as cute as a button, eyes big brown, little gold ringlets on his head. Yuck. He's looking right in my face. I look away, I look back. He's looking right in my face. And his mum's all smiles. They're looking right in my face. I should point out tube etiquette. Blood rising to my face. I feel my left hand move. It's rising for a wave. Involuntary movement under little tyrant's gaze. The atmosphere is weighted, carried silent as a grave. Embarrassment is rushing in like a tidal wave. And I wave and I smile. And the baby smiles back. And like magic, it is lighting up the train. Me and mother and a chap chatting. Next stop strolling. Those unwritten rules broken have brightened up my day. Zippity doo dah. Zippity-yay. The baby smiled at me and it brightened up my day. High impact poetry in the building, people. Make some noise. Thank you very much. Are you guys ready to hear from Team Amplified now? I feel like the applause machines are warmed. Are you guys ready? Yeah? All right, it's going to happen. So, before the event started, I asked everyone, what would you do if you were in charge of the world for a day? What one thing would you change if you're the president of the world for a day? Does anyone in the audience have any suggestions of what they might do? Anything immediately spring to mind? Awkward silence. That's absolutely fine. These guys have got it covered. So, our first reader, if they were in charge of the world for a day, this is amazing. Like, we actually need to do this. Every single person would be assigned a counselor from birth. And the reason being, we all need someone to talk to. Even mental health professionals need someone to talk to. And if we all had someone, including the counselors, then everyone would always have someone to talk to. How sick is that? So please make some noise for the incredibly brilliant, wonderful, excellent, awesome, purple Matilda!
Thank you. One day, I was driving in my power chair around my neighborhood when this guy asked, "What's your problem?" I said, "I have a condition called slapdash syndrome." Having a disability isn't a barrier. If every book was printed in Braille, every TV show or announcement in a shop was BSL interpreted, and everywhere had wheelchair access, where would the problem be? Once I went to Sissinghurst Gardens, and I went right to the flowers. But there were stairs. So then I went to look at the sanctuary. But there were stairs. Then I wondered, what was beyond the gate? And guess what? There were more bloody stairs. All that could have been resolved with a ramp. A really good example of adaptation that didn't take much thought at all was during a P lesson when I was 10 years old. All of my classmates were playing on the equipment. I wanted to jump on the horse and ascend up the climbing frame. But I was told I couldn't do it because of health and safety, which personally I think is the school's way of saying, we're just lazy, or we don't have the budget for send students. Thanks, government. So I just had to lie on a stinking mat doing exercises. And I began to cry because I felt excluded. Then my teacher made simple adjustments to the horse. She put a block on one side of it so that I could climb up it, and a mat on the other side I could slide down onto. And just like that, the horse was accessible. When I was younger, I used to think if I worked on my walking, I wouldn't need to use a wheelchair because I'd watched films like Heidi, where Clara, a young girl with polio, visits the countryside and the fresh air is an elixir to her. She's miraculously cured. Now I realise I can progress to adulthood, get a job, go travelling, have children, all in a wheelchair. It may mean that I have to do things differently. For example, if I have a baby biologically, I'll have to have a cesarean because my muscles are quite stiff. loads of women prefer it to natural birth anyway. By the way, my children wouldn't have cerebral palsy because it's not genetic. Up until recently, I was encouraged to use a walking frame to get around. But I felt unstable using it, self-conscious, and lost my independence. I still do walking, but only therapeutic, the same way you go on your treadmill daily. For some people, walking frames can be very enabling, and that's okay. It's whatever works for you. The other thing is that cerebral palsy doesn't narrow my gamut of emotions. If anything, it makes me more sensitive. Just because I've needed help my whole life doesn't mean I feel any less awkward about it or notice that none of my peers need it. I think it's respectful for people to be discreet about my personal care. And even though I know it's perceived as a compliment by the nurse when they say I've been brave because I've had to take my knickers off and be prodded, I find that very patronising. I didn't have a choice. It was just something I had to do as part of my health. My twin sister would have felt uncomfortable in that situation, so why shouldn't I be? I also have a delayed reaction to things, so if something upsets me, I may not react to it until the following morning. Just because I look fine in school doesn't mean I won't go home and explode. I want to be a screenwriter so I can spread diversity. Growing up, the majority of characters in books and TV shows were cisgender, white, heterosexual, and neurotypical. And on the rare occasion when there is diversity, like when Carrie Burnell, who was born with one arm, made her debut appearance on CBeebies, some old farts, dare I say conservative, complain about them. Some parents wrote on the channel's message board, "My child will ask difficult questions," or "That woman will give my daughter nightmares." When one girl did finally watch her, she said, look, mummy. And her mum was like, "Here we go." And she said, "I want Carrie's princess curls." Inclusion is an illusion. What you might perceive as being inclusive, other people may not. The time when something doesn't exclude anyone, you won't even notice because it will be normalised. Let's take it back to 2 years ago when I was in the school play. In rehearsals, I always rolled in with the other students who had disabilities. And it was the same on the nights of the show. Whilst the other students were doing singing practice on the stage, we were segregated in our own room and I wasn't allowed to chat to any of my friends during the interval. Once when we were leaving the rehearsal, I heard the TA say proudly to a teacher, "5 SEND students!" I know she meant it in a positive way, like the drama department was giving everyone a go, but that made me feel like a token. We're just part of the cast. I have my own identity, and although I get on with some people who require SEN, I don't prefer the company of all of them. You don't say, "Oh, look, 2 ginger people. Let's put them together." So hopefully this hasn't been a rambling rant that has made you want to stick needles in your eyes. So the moral of the story is, people with disabilities don't need to be cured, and we need to see them in the media, not just for disabled people to make them their idols, but for non-disabled people to see that they're just as much fun. In fact, more. When I had friends around when I was little, all they used to say was, "Can we go in the lift? Can we go in the lift?" I'd be like, "I go in it every day. It's not that exciting." So, thank you for being a great audience for my stand-up. Well, non-stand-up because obviously.
Right, everyone, stop making noise. You've done it, please. Thank you very much. Stop making noise in order to make more noise for Matilda! Drop in science! You guys ready for your next performer? Oh, come on, guys. Are you guys ready for your next performer? Can we get some bass? Can we get some treble? Can we get some big
I have to admit, I'm quite, nervous. Prior to coming on stage, I was okay, confident. It tends to be a delayed reaction. I get on here and my heart's beating so fast. But here I go. I'm content with my own company. I have been for a very long time. And I know what you're probably thinking. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Or you might be thinking, she's just saying that. Everyone wants to be independent, by themselves. Or you might be thinking, well, she doesn't like people. Nice to know. No, I never said that I didn't like people. I actually love people. Seeing them interact, seeing what they like, what they dislike, listening to their ideas. Whether I agree with them is a different story, though. But during the limited times, that I've tried the whole socializing thing, it just never seemed to turn out right. Let me give you an instance. I'm currently in college, and prior to moving, I thought that college was going to be the best thing that happened to my social life. Ever since, circle time in primary school, the ones where you go in, the rainbow thing that you go under. Yeah, let's just say that I set the bar a tad too high. Because when I tell you that talking to the person next to me was the most difficult thing ever, sentences, brain gone, not there. So it was just a series of awkward silences, and I still feel the secondhand embarrassment till now. There are some good sides to it, though, I suppose. Collaborations are pretty easy when you're collaborating with yourself. Disappointment tends to be an unfamiliar feeling, because, it's just me and me. Smaller friendship groups, which equals to saving money, which equals to more money for me. No extra attention, please. I only ask for help when I need it. And generally just minding my own business, because I respect boundaries, as I also want the respect of my own boundaries to be reciprocated. I haven't always been like this. It's a learnt habit. It's actually like a shield, a form of protection. When I was younger, like every child, I was naive, gullible, and naive. And I tolerated a lot in retrospect, but obviously I wasn't perceptive enough to realize. I have a vivid recollection of one of these occurrences. It was my 7th birthday. My mum had, made a birthday for me and my brother, so it was split. My brother invites his invitees. I invite my so-called friends. And my mum, she invites, her friends, and of course they bring their kids with them. The day of the party rolls by, and, there are a series of knocking on the doors. You open the door, happy birthday, giving out all the presents, all cheery and stuff. My brother's invitees were around, wishing him the best for his birthday, giving him his presents. And surprise, surprise, not a single soul that I invited showed up. Yeah, Not a phone call, not a text message from a parent saying, oh yeah, my child can't come. And a typical 7-year-old, would be sad, pull a straw up or whatever 7-year-olds do when they're sad. A little, no one came. None of my invitees came. But I seem to be a special case. I was absolutely fine. Yeah, believe it or not. Nothing, no sadness, no straps, no why didn't my friends come to my party? I was just living it up with my mum's friends' kids. And we were just having a swell time. I have a vivid, memory. I recall being on the bunk bed. We were all bearing in mind that this is it's a bunk bed and there was 7 of us on it. And we proceeded to jump off the bunk bed. I don't know how I'm still alive, but somehow I was. I know. Anyways, And as for the following Monday, my so called friends that I had invited, there I was, playing with them as if nothing had ever happened, or as if they hadn't stood me up. And it was continuous scenarios like this, during primary school and secondary school, blindly trusting people, being too nice, forgiving. I don't really know what to name it. Some of you may consider this a blessing, being not too quick to get angry, being temperate. Some of you might think, just like I did, that I was just being unperceptive, English, and too merciful. That I should have planned some kind of redemption, some kind of revenge, got back at my foes kind of thing. But not like that, not anymore. And by the way, you're both right if you thought of that. I started this habit maybe back in year 9, the shield habit. I was fresh out of a breakup, and no, not a relationship. It was a friendship. And there I was trying to find another friendship group, to claw onto. And that I did. It was like a scavenger hunt, raking through friendship groups, trying to find the golden friendship, the treasure trove. And I never found it. We just never got there. No one. We couldn't find anyone that we were compatible with. And so my codependent, extroverted, I want to be friends with everyone self was now forced to be independent. What? No, seriously, like how was I supposed to survive in this world? I'm friends with everybody. That can't happen. How can that coincide? Well, I figured it out. I spent a lot of my time on myself, focusing on myself and what I liked. I developed my sports skills. I learned that I had a passion for chess, webtoons. I'm not sure if you know what those are, but if you do, kudos to you. And horror films. And being by myself enabled me to figure that out. And now on to the juicy stuff. How was the pandemic? What was it like? It was great. Like I was by myself. I had all the time in the world to learn about myself, be by myself. Whether you call that selfish, I really don't care. I, got to develop new things, like learn new recipes and learned about the stock market. So, but truthfully, to conclude, I would say that it was boring. I said that I liked my own company, not that I didn't like people. And so being by myself stopped being sacred and started being monotonous. Like every day, I wake up and I see no one. It's like, oh. Obviously, when you do something over and over again, it's just going to get boring, regardless of what it is. And so, in terms of my abnormal liking and obsession with being by myself, I want to say that pandemic was boring. In a way, I'm kind of angry at it, for ruining the sanctity of my solitude and just making it less special. Basically, it just ruined alone time for me. And I found myself wanting to talk to people, like socially interact with people. No, I don't mean like observing them like a zoo or like, stalking them. No, like talking to people. I don't know how I managed to get myself in this predicament. Now, when I say talk, I mean talk to people like you, or people like you, or people like you over there in the blue hoodie, or people like you, pink sweatshirt. Is that supposed to be like a peach or something? With the matching pink mask. Love that. Love that. You know what? You and you. I feel like Jennifer Hudson, but I can't really guarantee if you'll fall in love with me. Yeah. What I really want to say is, I really like my own company. And I do, that's why I said that. But sometimes, I kind of, sort of might like talking to people, because they can be cool sometimes. Thank you for having me.
Yolanda! Wow! People can be cool sometimes. That's definitely something to take away from that performance going forward into a eased restriction zone. People can be cool sometimes. Thanks, Yolanda. Did you discover you like watching horror films by yourself? That's that. Even the thought of that makes me like, watching a horror film by myself is like the worst thing ever. Anyway, enough about me. Are you guys ready for your next reader, your next performer, your next exclusive piece, hot off the press? So I asked this next performer, what would you do if you're in charge of the world for the day? And he said, I'd take all the money and I'd put it in my bank account. He wants your vote, people. But then he would redistribute it as he saw fit to decent causes. Yay! So please, let's get some bass. Let's get some treble. Let's get some mid. For Milo!
Hello, everyone. I'm also in college with UK Unsigned with Jimmy and Joe. They got me here to this point, standing right here. And my set is called Luminar. It's about when I was younger in primary school. So, yeah. Primary school was an issue for me, and you might wonder why. That's because I couldn't read or write. I was being bullied all the time. I wanted to fight back, but I couldn't fight back. I felt so angry and annoyed at the letters I was reading. They looked like shapes and numbers, like another language. It was alien. Writing was just like lines and squiggles. From young, I knew I was different. The other kids didn't understand the difference. And even I knew there was something wrong with me, and I understood the difference, even though I didn't understand it fully. But now that I'm older, I understand it fully. In year one, that's when I met Luminar. You might ask me, who's that? Well, I didn't know either. I thought she was just another teacher assistant. But no, she was more than that. Even more than that, she was so special. She took me to the side and explained everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Something was wrong. I wasn't sure what it was. Speech and language is what she taught me. Not anymore. I had this problem and I was the only one. And when I say I was the only one, I mean I was the only one. We did relaxation exercises to make me feel calm, but I wasn't calm, I was stressed. She drew on my back with a finger from the bottom of my spine to the top of my neck. I had to guess the letters. I had to guess what she was spelling. I guess I could use that as a reference. It went through her arm to my arm, then onto my paper. For the first time in my life, I felt wanted. For the first time in my life, I felt as if I could achieve something I got told I couldn't. Lumina helped me so much, she has no idea what she's done for me. I feel like she gave me life because I was a seed and she grew me into a tree. Lumina, you're the only reason why I have a passion. You're the only reason why I'm rapping. You're the only reason why I'm able to put my thoughts, feelings, and emotions onto my paper. Years went by, I went back, and Lumina was the first person I went to see. When I saw all them little kids sitting right in front of me, all I saw in them was a little bit of me, a mirror without a mirror. A little kid who was struggling, a little kid who wasn't sure what he wanted, a little kid who didn't understand and still doesn't understand the world he lives in, and he still lives in it. A little kid with big dreams, a little kid who didn't know what it meant to be different, and he was bullied because he was different. I never bullied you or anyone else because of your weight, the way you dressed, if you wore makeup, nor because of your skin color or religion, not because of anything. I saw everyone as equal and different. So what was so different about me that made me different? And what made you think that you had the right to bully me to the point where I wanted to become non-existent, not even living? So tell me, what am I supposed to do? Put my soul on the shelf, put it to the side, and then act like everyone else? No, I wanted to be myself. And nobody let me be myself. I don't care about what you think or say. I'm going to be myself. Now, primary school isn't an issue for me. Why? That's because I can now read and write. I can fight back with words, something I couldn't do before, something I can do now and forever. I don't have to panic every time somebody puts a pen or pencil on my hand. I don't feel pressure. And I made a promise to myself, if I ever get rich or famous for music, I'm going to give my first million to Luminar. She deserves it. She earned it through my perseverance. And because Luminar, you're the other half of me. Thank you.
Keep making noise for Milo! Radical rap narratives. The whole journey from the beginning to this point was just on stage for you to see. That was incredible. But, right, are you ready for your last, final, ultimate, trying to think of another word, concluding, climactic, crescendo performer? Brilliant, good, good. But also, that wasn't loud enough. So are you ready for your final performer? Okay. Yeah! Come on, it's our last time that we can do this. Are you ready for your final performer? Bass! Mid! Treble!
So we're supposed to be telling stories about ourselves, okay? Hi, my name is Alia, and I have the social skills of a peanut. It's true. Yeah, peanut. That's me. So let me give you an example. So, back when I was but a fresh-faced year 7, traveling home with a group of others, in a group of more than 6, back when you were allowed to do that. So me and my friends, we were walking home, and one of the girls in our group pointed out another boy in our year who was walking not far off and admitted that she had a crush on him because we were going through that phase where you switch to secondary school and suddenly everyone has a boyfriend or girlfriend. So she tells us that she likes this kid, and my incompetent squirrel brain decides that the next logical step is to go right up to that boy and tell him. Now, let me explain 12-year-old me's train of logic, if you can call it that. I thought that if I was the boy and someone liked me, then I would want to know so that, I could get to know them, see if there was someone that I was interested in. And apparently, normal people don't work that way. So yeah, honestly, looking back on it, I don't even think anyone was that mad. I honestly, if anything, they just treated it like a bit of a joke, like a big laugh. But I didn't see it that way. I was absolutely mortified. I really took it to heart. So incidents like that made Squirrel Brain start going, you know what? When I do things, I sometimes do them wrong and get a bit embarrassed. I should just stop doing things altogether and not have a unique opinion on literally anything. Great idea. This will totally not negatively impact me and make my self-esteem plummet like a rock and make people walk all over me. So, yeah, time flies. And the predictable happens. I am bullied by basically every other kid in my class. I earn such insults that are so creative and wounding and well thought out, such as Sagittarius. Honestly, I'm more annoyed at how stupid that insult is as an insult than the bullying itself, to be honest. So finally, year 8 was not a fun time for me. So finally, Squirrel Brain has been jumping up and down, trying to get that nut that life has been dangling directly over its head, just out of reach. And it's been jumping and jumping, trying to grab it, and then it stops and realizes, hold on a second, this isn't how I want to live my life. Well, better late than never, I guess. Although, unfortunately, the thing about just suddenly deciding to not give a damn about what anyone thinks, and just be unapologetically yourself, is that it's not really as simple and straightforward and overnight transformation, snap of the fingers, as the Disney movies and inspirational short films would like you to believe. I got to work on it. I discovered a great group of friends. I was doing pretty well. I was still struggling with it, though. I still struggle with it to this day. But now I'm going to tell you a little story about something that happened recently, and you can fill in the gaps yourself. So, I arrive early to school, and I'm the only one in the classroom. School hasn't started yet, and it won't start for about half an hour. No, not even the teacher is there. I am alone. So I'm sitting there with my Chromebook, with all my stuff out. I'm waiting, and it's silent. And I decide, I get a song stuck in my head, Defying Gravity from Wicked. It starts, so I start, yeah, it's a great song. So I start humming it. It gets more stuck in my head. I start singing it a little bit. I think I'll try to find. So I realize I can just start singing it a bit louder. So I sing it louder and louder until finally I think, hold on, people might hear me. But then another part of me pipes up, well, who cares? I'm alone here. I can just do whatever I want. So I stand up and I start belting out a song that is way out of my vocal range. So if you can find me, look to the western sky, as someone told me lately. Everyone deserves a chance. And someone walks in. It wasn't the teacher, thank goodness. It was just another student. So she's standing in the doorway and she looks at me, and I look at her, and we both burst out laughing. After we get our breath back, I jokingly ask her if it was a bit of a shock to come into the classroom and find me belting to an empty room. She remarks and admits that actually she could hear me from all the way downstairs. So, yeah, I have a bit of a stronger voice than I first anticipated. But here's the weird part, though. Only looking back on it was when I realized that I wasn't embarrassed in that situation. I was able to laugh it off easily. And if that happened a couple years ago, then I would have been mortified. I would have really taken it to heart. But I didn't, and I realize now that I'm in a much better place now. I'm much more confident and comfortable with being who I am. Just being myself and not letting other people's judgments affect me, and I'm really grateful for that.
Fantastic. Right. We have a little bit of time now for a Q&A. We've got about 5 minutes. We've just all been privy to these wonderful stories, these exclusive tales, stories that have never been told to an audience before. Does anyone have any burning questions for any of our writer performers? If you do, now is your time to ask them. Raise your hands. Lem.
Where are you gonna keep writing? Are you gonna? Because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that's my own question.
What next, guys?
Okay, what next? Frankly, when I started this, I mainly had the intention of doing it just for the sake that I wanted to develop my public speaking skills. But now that I've done it, I've realized how okay and actually genuinely good I am at talking to large masses of people. Yeah. So, what next? I don't know. I suppose I should look into more public speaking opportunities, but this experience was really eye-opening and just made me like realize what I'm actually capable of. So yeah, I will definitely look into more public speaking opportunities, more opportunities to just speak to people. Like as I said earlier. Sometimes. So yeah, that is probably what I would look into.
Alia, I have gotten a lot more confident recently, and I feel like Amplified has helped with that quite a bit. So what next? I guess I'm gonna keep going. I guess I'm gonna keep speaking and keep expressing. And I love your story. Yeah, thanks.
I guess I'll just continue performing if open mics are open, because that's where I normally perform. And things like this with Amplified have helped me with my, I guess, public speaking. And then this adds on to my, what's the word? Confidence with like performing at the same places, but with more attitude, shall I say. And I saw this opportunity, so I took it, and I would let anyone know that you should do the same with anything else. Not like public speaking, but with other things, not just public speaking. So yeah.
Me? Okay. Well, as I said in my speech, I really want to become a screenwriter or an author, so I can spread diversity and make sure that everyone is represented in the media. So I'm hoping to I'm studying film studies at college, and I hope to get some like apprenticeships with the BBC or ITV or somewhere, because I have some connections. So it's a good start.
See, like I said, you're at the beginning of these guys' careers. You guys got the VIP seats right at the front. Any other questions in the building from the back?
What is the one thing that people that work with or are surrounded by young people can do to support young people, would you say?
Do you guys get that? You guys get that? Yeah?
So what do young people do to help young people?
What can people that work with young people do to carry on and better support young people? Am I right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll start.
Same order?
Yeah, same order. I want to say that you can continue. I don't feel like you can do any more. If someone wants to do something, then they'll willingly come of their own accord. You can let them know that the opportunity is available to them, and you keep on pushing for them to do so. But I feel like that there's been so much done that I feel like mainly the reason why I came is because I wanted to come, and primarily because I wanted to be here. So I feel like no amount of necessary like advertisement or promotion will cause a young person to come. They'll just come because they want to be here. And that's what I think about that.
I feel like something that's very important is listen to them and listen to how they're feeling and try to like understand them, because it will always be appreciated if you make an effort to like understand someone.
I guess you can try to get on their level, try to, I guess, feel how they feel, and then try to put yourself in their shoes, and then you can relate back to how you felt when you was that age, and then give them some different advice on how they could have done it differently, like with relationships or anything like that. Yeah, that's what I like.
Matilda?
Try and remember how you felt when you were young, and try and respect when young people feel self-conscious, and respect like their personal space, and if they're finding something a bit difficult because you don't know how it feels to them. So like some people, they really hate like loud noises. You can say, oh, it's not that loud, but to them it really is. Their ears are really like the sound really is amplified in their ears. So yeah.
Is everyone making notes, people that work with young people? Great. Fantastic. Do you have any questions, young person? No. Wonderful. I thought that was just the voice of young people everywhere coming down from the sky. Do we have time for one more question? Yeah? One more question? One last question, I think. Yeah.
We heard when they couple of people that we didn't hear what they would do if they ruled the world.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yolanda, can you remember what you said you'd do if you ruled the world?
To be fair, I didn't really have a response, just for the sake of how like abrupt the question was. Like, just
shade. Come on stage.
I was like, the generic answers, say, no more war, end world hunger. But now that I come to think about it, I would also like support the idea of that one person who thought that we should take all the money from everyone and redistribute it to people who need them most. I really like that idea.
Team Milo, Team Yolanda. And Alia as well, I think. I don't think I told everyone what you said. What did you say? Oh yeah, I remember.
Well, what I said is that I would lower the voting age to about 15, 16, because I feel like too many people who are much older vote for things that concern people who are much younger and will affect them for longer, and that doesn't really add up to me. I had this analogy for it where, so imagine that someone wants to watch a movie with you and you don't really like the movie, but they want to watch the movie as well. They want to watch the movie, so they make you watch the movie with them, and then they walk out 10 minutes in, and you have to keep watching the movie. That's my analogy for it.
Round of applause. I think it's a really useful analogy, 100%. Right, I think we have to wind it up, don't we? So we've got some thank yous. Thank you to the story mentors. So in that weekend, the aforementioned weekend, where everyone made these stories began and then grew and were nurtured into the stories that you saw before you in the past hour. We have the story mentors that supported that and made that happen, and that was Chris Callard. Can we get a round of applause? Chris Callard, Anna Smith, and Paul O'Connell, story mentors. So let's hear applause and thanks to the professional writers who guided the young people so wonderfully. Pete Lawson. Sahila Al-Bushra. Thanks to the team behind the scenes at Little Green Pig. The behind the scenes team of Sketchy Nicky and Nicky and your boy Thanks to the Brighton Festival for inviting us back. You're Brighton Festival. It's wonderful to be here. It's so important to have space to share these kind of stories and give space to young people and young writers, and to come as an audience and receive them as well. Like what a brilliant way to spend an early afternoon. Is it Sunday? It's a Monday. It's a Sunday. I have a young child. Weekdays mean nothing to me. It's mango and avocado day. So congratulations to you guys for turning up and helping create this space as well. Round of applause for you. Thanks to our funders, the University of Brighton, without which this could not have happened. Thanks, University of Brighton. And most importantly, thanks to these incredible young people. We're going to do a roll call, please. Can we get some bass? Can we get some mid? Can we get some treble? Can we get This has been amplified. You're all awesome. One more round of applause. Have a wonderful Sunday, people.